We live in a world that has its own definition of values, morals, and ethics. Recently, I heard about a little boy. And this little boy, his behavior had become such that the teacher was forced to ask him the question, "Johnny, what is a lie?" And Johnny thought about that for just a minute. And then he said, "Well, a lie is an abomination unto the Lord and a very present help in time of trouble." A little bit of the problem that we see in the world. I also heard of a man who could not sleep at night. And he had been reading in the book of Psalms where God knew all of his secret sins. And so one night when he could not sleep, he got up and he wrote a letter to the Income Tax Bureau. And he said, "To whom it may concern, I cannot sleep at night because I have not paid an honest income tax. So please accept this check for $200. And if I cannot sleep, I will send you the rest." Some of the behavior that marks the conduct of what is considered to be normal in the world. Values and morals and ethics have a very strange definition. Now, my first presentation, you recall, was on involvement, getting members to become involved in the mission. Yesterday, we talked about networking and how we can gather people to become involved. But pastors, I want to tell you something. If we do not understand values, morals, and ethics, no one will want to participate in the mission that you have been asked to lead. This is an extremely important topic because the Apostle Paul in 2 Timothy 3 verses 1 to 5, he says at the end of time, people are going to be, and what does he say? Lovers of their own self, dishonest, hateful, truce breakers, and the list goes on. But Jesus says, I don't want you to act like that. I want you to act more like the fruits of the Spirit, the Beatitudes in Matthew 5. And yet we live in a world that is moving this way. Matter of fact, a world that says that is a successful behavior. And so I want to take a little time to present a quick presentation on values, morals, and ethics. And I hope that if you get a copy of this PowerPoint, that it can be something that you can use. And you can take it back and it can serve as a reference to you as you serve as a pastor. If you want to have people involved, we have to be known as an organization that has values, morals, and ethics. So I want to just review this with you a little bit. Gary Edwards, who was a professor at a big shot university, he wrote, "When people accept responsibility for their own conduct and for the well-being of others, ethics serves to stabilize society." Now, I know that there's probably a lot of people here who have been involved in prison ministries. And when you go into a prison, a maximum security prison, a medium security prison, you will find that it's not a real stable environment. Because in that prison, many times you can have people who have riots and fighting and killing and stealing, and this is the activity that it takes place in a prison. And it's because the people in that prison have not taken responsibility for their own conduct. They haven't accepted that, nor have they accepted the well-being of others. And so ethics is not a large part of life in a maximum security prison. We live in a world where people are beginning to take less and less responsibility for their own conduct and the well-being of others. And so we find that ethics struggles to provide a stable environment. Now, I want us to just look very quickly through some material. Moral obligation. Ethics assures that there is a distinction between good and bad, good and evil, right and wrong, and that individuals have a moral obligation to do their best to discover and do the right thing. This is a moral obligation that we have as Seventh-day Adventists. Now, I want us to go through this carefully and to think our way through this. Those who serve the people, and I think every person in this room falls in that category. We all serve people, and particularly pastors. Because these people are working on behalf of others, they are expected, even in the face of tempting personal or political gain, to do the right thing, as determined by certain universal, timeless values essential to ethical life. And so we have that expectation built on the part of many people, and there are many people watching us. Now, objectives to this presentation. What is it that I hope to accomplish in what we're going to do here in the next few minutes? Number one, commitment to increase the desire to do the right thing. I hope we can leave here with an increased desire. Number two, consciousness, a heightened awareness of ethical implications of decisions and actions as they relate to a core set of moral values and ethical principles. I hope again that we can raise our awareness of that. Number three, competencies, to be able to engage in principled reasoning and problem solving as they relate to ethical conduct. And so these are three objectives that I have for this presentation. Now, today we find that we live in a world where ethics is under pressure. Society, it puts great emphasis on the intellectual and the practical skills that make up the knowledge and action sides of most logos, sometimes to the exclusion of character. And we know this to be the fact. How many times do we read in the newspaper where sometimes our political leaders disappoint us, or we read in the newspaper where business people have disappointed the investors that have invested in that company? They have no ethics or morals or values whatsoever. They have no problem with taking actions that brings them personal gain, and they set aside everything that we would hold as Christians. Society puts the pressure on people. Now, I don't want anyone here to be confused. Pastors, society puts pressures on pastors. Your church puts pressure on pastors. Those who attend put pressure on pastors. Virtue and ethics may easily be sacrificed to the pressure of the moment. And those whom we consider to have oftentimes the most knowledge, sometimes they are the least trustworthy of people. Now, they're a very popular thing today to push to the boundaries. Some people seem to be exerting individual rights and exploring the boundaries of regulations and ethical conduct. Now, this is a reality. It's the world that we live in. They push to the boundaries. Now, the world would like us to believe that it's not the best policy that we should behave in an honest way. That lack of consequences to improper behavior, that this has led to us to believe that really honesty is not the best policy. And I can give many examples of that, but I will not take time at this moment. Matter of fact, the world often says that it's the cheaters who prosper. Those who throw their values and ethics and morals out, that's the people who prosper. Yet, there must be some common ground on which people from backgrounds can stand against the violence, the hate, and a spiral toward mediocrity, or worse. What is that ground? What is it that we can review today that will help us not only in our personal behavior, but as we deal with situations in the church? Now, let's take a look at what the differences are between values, morals, and ethics. What are the differences between these terms? Now, very quickly, values, they're core beliefs or desires that guide and motivate attitudes and actions, primarily concerned about what is right. Now, this is the definition that you can find in dictionaries. This is what you would define values as. Core beliefs. All right, morals. What do we talk about when we talk about morals? Well, morals and individuals' beliefs about what is right and wrong. Morals are a personal evaluation of values and behaviors, especially concerning matters of things like religion, sex, drinking, gambling, etc., these kinds of things. Morals can be seen as an internal alarm system. Now, some of us can say that maybe morals can be defined as the conscience that God has placed in us. All right, let's quickly take a look at ethics. Ethics is a different definition. And pastors, I want us to pay very careful attention to this. Now, all right, it refers to standards of conduct that indicate how people ought to behave based on specific values and the principles that define what is right. Ethics deals with the ability to distinguish between right and wrong and the commitment to do what is right. Now, I want you to pay very careful attention because I have asked the executive secretary to select some people in the congregation that I'm going to have come up on the platform, and you're going to be part of the program in just a few minutes. We're going to present some situations, and I'm going to ask these wise men if they will come up, and they will be a panel that will respond to certain things that we're going to talk about. And so I'm asking you pay very careful attention because you might be the one that is selected. So here we have a definition of values, a definition of morals, and a definition of ethics. Ethics is a little bit different. How is that? You know, can ethics be omitted? Well, the real truth is ethics can be omitted. Individuals make choices based on values and according to their own morality. They may or may not choose to behave ethically. Now, let me just give you a little example of that. Now, we happen to be in the Philippines, but if we were gathered in the United Nations and the topic of capital punishment came up, whether it is right to take the life of a determined and committed criminal, who has committed some heinous act. Well, you know, if you go to some countries, they will tell you absolutely yes, that person should be put into the electric chair. We should give them a lethal injection. But do you realize that when you travel to other countries, those countries will tell you, no, absolutely not. It's beyond what human dignity deserves is to have them experience capital punishment. They have a moral right to life. And you will find that there's great opposition to that. Well, you know, that debate, it takes place because you have people who have different values and different morals. You can find the same thing in the business world, and I could give you many examples. There are certain values. Someone says, well, I'm going to honor the policy. I'm going to abide by that. These are the rules of the organization. But when they deal with personnel inside the office, they're nasty people. They're angry. They're people who have no respect for anyone. Well, they operate on certain values. They have certain morals about abiding by this and that. But sometimes they don't implement the ethical decision. Now, there's two major misconceptions, and I want us to take a look at this. The first major misconception is there is no self-deception. Yeah. Many times we say, no, I'm not deceived. I have a good grip on this. I'm seeing the situation perfectly. Number two, that our example is perfect. Our example is perfect. Now, let's just take a look at these two for a minute. No self-deception. Are you ready? Listen to this. At the turn of the century, a Russian nobleman attended a play. And in the play, a Russian peasant died. Actually died. Being a compassionate woman, she cried as she left the theater. Whereupon, when she left the theater, she discovered that her footman had frozen to death while waiting outside for her by the carriage. And while this lady had tears in her eyes about a play where somebody died, she had very little reaction to what was taking place outside in real life. We could say, well, maybe this lady was deceived. Our example is perfect. Let's listen to this. A young child stole a pencil from a local store, and he was caught and brought home by the police. The father handled the situation by paying for the pencil and making the child apologize. And once the parent and the child were alone, the father said, "Son, why in the world did you steal that pencil? I can't believe that you did that. I've always taught you to be honest and not to steal. If you had needed a pencil so badly, why didn't you tell me? I would have taken one from the office." Yeah. You know, when you go home, check your dresser drawer. Check where you store your pencils and see if any of them belong to the office. Our two deceptions. You know, I'm never deceived, and the other one is, my example is always perfect. Don't ever believe that. Many times we are deceived, and many times our example may not be perfect. Ethical decision making. Listen to this. Values and ethics are silent, but mighty partners in decision making. Every decision from everyday habits to once-in-a-lifetime dilemmas. All of them have ethical dimensions. Every one. There's no exceptions. Now, you know, there are some things that are easy in decision making. The simplest situation is when there's a clear answer. It's either right or it's wrong. For example, do you lie or do you tell the truth? Do I steal money or do I not steal money? Do you work on the Sabbath or do you not work on the Sabbath? You know, these are situations that it's very easy to answer. You can answer yes or no. It's clearly understood, and it's not difficult to weigh these. But let me tell you, pastors, and especially those of you who are young pastors, you will come to situations in your ministry, and they are not easy decisions. I remember my father was planting a new church, and he began to go around, and in this city there was not even one Seventh-day Adventist. And so he met a lot of people, and he began to give Bible studies, and he had a little group that came together. And about 5 months later, I came down to that church, and I had an opportunity to visit there. And then my father said to me, he said, "You see this man and lady here?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, when I started studying with them," he said, "they were not married. But," he said, "as we began to study," he said, "they told me they wanted to be married. I mean, they would like to be married before they were baptized." He said, I told them that was a good idea. But he said, "Before I married them, I discovered something." He said, "You see that couple in the back?" "Yeah." He said, "Well, that lady back there used to be she was this man's wife still. They had never gotten a divorce. And yet this couple had 3 children together, and those people had 2 children together." Now, I'm not going to try to solve this today, and I'm not even going to tell you what happened. But I'm going to tell you, pastors, you will come to situations that are not easy. Some decisions are easy decisions. It's very easy. A lady will come to you and she'll say, "You know, should I marry this man? It's demonstrated that he is a drunkard and he is this and he is that." You know, as a pastor, you can say, "Well, I advise that you probably should not marry him." These are easy things because the Bible is clear. But let's take a look at some of the hard decisions. The story is told of a Nazi commander knocking on the door of a family who was thought to be harboring Jews. "Do you have any Jews in here?" he asked. The family member had to weigh the values of honesty, responsibility, caring, fairness, and citizenship. Now, in this case, the answer was no. We have no Jews here. Well, the person put the values of caring and justice over the values of honesty and citizenship. That's a hard decision. Sometimes it's not clear, and I would guess that if I were to probably ask people in the room, most of you would say, "Well, he probably made the right decision by telling a lie." But you know, there might be someone here that would say, "Well, no, I don't think so. He should have told the truth. He should have told that officer the truth and not told a lie. And let God work out a miracle." Well, you know, I'm not here to decide this, but I'm just telling you that there's some of these things that are not easily defined. Now, I want to have these individuals who have been selected in the audience to come forward now, if you would, please. Come right on up. We're going to have a little bit of fun here, and it's not going to be who has been selected. All right? Okay, I see you have been selected. I see people coming. Only 2. Okay. All right. Please just bring your chair right up here if you would, okay? Now, right up here in the front. Are there others that were selected? I can't remember. Okay, we're coming. All right. I think we have 4 wise men. All right. Now, can we bring another chair from over here for this other person? Now, Elder Cooper, I would like to ask you if you would come up, and I want you to be the advisor to the wise men, okay? If you would come up, and I want you to be the advisor to the wise men. And you can just set your chair right on the end, okay? Okay, now, you may want to pay very careful attention to these next little things because I'm going to ask you to respond to this. All right? There are 4 warning signs on ethics. Let's take a look at them. Number 1, or 4 tests that you can run. 4 tests, okay? The first one is called kid on your shoulder. All right, now that means child on your shoulder. Now wait a minute. Would you be comfortable if your children were watching you? Are you setting an example that you want them to follow? So now, pastors, when you get to a certain situation, ask yourself that question. Now, if my child were sitting right here on my shoulder, would I want them to see this or to see the way I handle this? All right, now, let's take a look at number 2. It's called front page newspaper. Would you be comfortable if your reasoning and decision were publicized and here it was on the front page of the Manila paper? Would you be comfortable with it being there, the decision that you made? Well, okay, that's number 2. The third test is called the golden rule. Are you treating others as you want to be treated? Are you treating others as you honestly think they want to be treated? That's the third test. The fourth test, it's called rule of universality. If everyone did this, would it still be okay? If everybody did it, would it still be okay? All right. Now we've got the 4 warnings down, okay? Now, are you ready? Here comes the part that you're going to get to play. It's a case study. You find a $100 bill in front of a small restaurant. Okay? Now, what do? You found it. Here it is. It's right in front of the small restaurant. All right? Now, who has the microphone? Okay, you do. Now wait just a minute. Wait. If your child was on your shoulder, what would you want them to see? Tell me.
Immediately we'll call either the manager of the restaurant and I say, we found a $100 bill on front of our table.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. I think you've got a good answer there. Would you pass the microphone over? All right. What would you want to see on the front page of the paper?
Well, in my case, if, let's say, we are public personality. And if what we are saying and we are doing will be publicized, it doesn't matter to me. Because we are setting example to people.
Yeah, but what would you want the paper to say about how you handled the $100?
Well, as he said, I will do also what he said, because if I found a $100 bill, I'm going to say to the owner of the restaurant, I found a $100 bill. I'm going to say that.
Okay, very good. Pass the microphone on. All right. Would you handle this in a way that would be what you would want someone else to do to you? The golden rule. Do unto others as you would want them to do to you. Would you handle it in this way?
I think so.
Okay. All right, that's good. All right, now let's come to the next one here. What about if everybody did what you did, would it be okay?
I don't think so.
Oh, you don't think so? Well, what would you do?
I'm sorry again, what did you say?
If everyone did with the $100 bill what you were going to do with it, would it be okay?
No.
I'm not communicating. Let me try it again.
Okay.
What would you do with the $100 bill?
Well, what I will do with the $100 bill, because of the moral and values I have, is I would rather do the same thing as what the first fellow did, to ask somebody from the restaurant that there is a $100 bill in front of the restaurant.
Okay, so if everyone in the world did that, it would be okay. If everybody handled the $100, then everybody would be doing the right thing.
Yes.
That's right. Okay, so we have that down. All right, now let's move here just a little bit further. Now, Elder Cooper, you can come in anytime, but I've got a special thing I think at the end here. Do you have anything you want to add at this point? Okay, all right, here we go.
You're not making hard on us.
I want you to look at this. This is called, now pastors listen carefully, it's called the Bell, Book, and Candle Test. Now what is that? All right, here we go. The Bell test is, listen for the bells warning you of an ethical issue. Listen to the bells. Sometimes, you can get into a certain situation and there's a little warning that goes off and, you shouldn't really do this. Number 2, book. Check to see if there are laws and regulations or rules that would govern or restrict your choices. Check it. Look at it. Because it might be on the front page of the newspaper. Number 3, the candle test. How will your decision look in the light when everybody's looking? Could a reasonable and fair-minded person conclude that you acted properly? So now we have these 3 tests. Okay, you're clear on them? All right, here we go. We're gonna take a look here at a case study. You are the youth leader of your church group. Several youth want to attend a summer camp, but do not have enough money. So your group has been fundraising. Another parent calls and is very excited to tell you that a local business has agreed to sponsor 5 kids. They want the kids to come to the business for a day so that they can get to know them. Because this business makes pizza, you know that the kids will be very excited to go to the business. Then you remember that the business was recently fined for hiring kids that were too young to be employed. Do you accept the money? Now, okay, I want you to talk about it and then appoint a spokesman. All right? You guys, I want you to just turn to your neighbor and I want you to say to your neighbor, this is what I would do. Right now, turn to your neighbor and tell them what you do. Okay, you talk about it together and decide what report you're going to give.
is a law. What is telling there is a law of hiring or employing minors.
Prohibiting kids to be hired.
So if you will allow your young people to go, you will be actually no, violating.
Yes.
So you stand on the morality, say legality of the issue.
Isn't it that you're just giving the money?
No, no, it's no, no, no. That they will go.
All right. Okay, I think we can get everybody's attention. I think the wise men are ready to give an answer. Okay. All right. Let me ask you this question. Is there a bell that should go off on this story?
There's a loud bell.
A loud bell, okay? All right, how many think that there should be a loud bell that goes off on this story? Raise your hands. Okay? And those that think, no, there's no problem here. Okay, I think we all say there's maybe a bell that went off, all right? Good. All right, now what about the book test? Wise men?
There is a clear legal that we are not supposed to hire kids.
Okay. What is the book test? Give him the microphone. No, what you just said.
Yeah, there was a law that we are not supposed to hire kids. What, in my understanding, was the owner of the pizza is going to sponsor children or the kids, but they'll be hired. That's what I understand. And we are not supposed to hire kids because it is against the law.
Okay. All right. There you have it. I think in most countries, they have laws that say you cannot hire children to do certain things. All right. Now, what about the candle test? What would be the reputation of the Seventh-day Adventist Junior Camp? What would be the reputation of the Seventh-day Adventist Church and the Junior Camp if we took the money? All right? And it's known that we took it from these people who hired kids that were too young. All right? What would be the candle test? Is there something there?
There would be a strong repercussion coming from the community of the Adventists, while we will allow our young people to go to this pizza shop, wherein that pizza shop was already found guilty of hiring minors.
Okay.
So there will be a kind of reactions, even in my church, if I am the youth leader.
All right. Now, all of those who would take the money, raise your hands. Okay. All right. They would not take the money. Any counsel, Elder Cooper?
Can I ask something?
Yes.
I differ from that view
Okay.
because as a church, we even accept tithe from any source. Now, it does not say that we cannot receive grace from people who even committed the law, or who even say violated the laws of God. It does not say that. On the other hand, if it is given without strings attached, there is no prohibition that we cannot accept.
Okay. We have another opinion? Yeah, we okay. Elder Cooper.
That's where ethics now comes in.
There are so many situations in life where I think one has to be careful of making a hasty decision. We are making quite a few assumptions on the basis of the information that was presented to us. And it may be well to explore a little further before deciding one way or the other. You know, is the owner of this business trying to repair or correct a situation that he realizes was wrong in the past.
Okay.
And could this possibly be a way of helping to recover and do something that is right, because he has been doing something that is wrong? I'm only saying here that ethical and moral and value decisions can become very complex, and we have to be careful that we don't make a hasty decision based on faulty assumptions or faulty information.
Okay, and I think you have heard some very good advice. Now listen to what I'm going to say. There's some backup material that was presented with this information that I have, but it is just exactly right what Elder Cooper said. It's easy for us in the sterile test tube of looking at ethics and morals to take a very high ground without considering many things. But the possibility is that the owner of this pizza company had not changed his mind. He was still determined to hire small kids, and he was still committed to breaking the law. But on the other hand, it might be that this guy is trying to change his reputation in the community. And maybe a little counsel in a little wider circle would guide us if we could help him. And so I'm just trying to tell you that the first case study is an illustration of something that was easy. But the next case study, this is one that maybe is not quite as easy because it takes a little more research. There is a principle that we are very well aware of here. We don't want to break the law. We don't want to associate with people who have a bad reputation and can cast a bad light on the church. We don't want that. But on the other hand, if it's part of something that's positive, it's something that we can be part of. Doing the right thing. A number of reasons, excuses, and justifications are commonly used to fool ourselves into doing other than the best. Among the most common rationalizations used to justify unethical conduct are, and I'm going to cover a list of 9 items here, but just before I do that, I want to give you another case study, and I'm going to ask the group here to respond to it. This is a case study, something that took place in the church. Example of something that took place in the church. It was that there was a church that had a Pathfinder club. And the Pathfinder Club was very successful. Many people wanted to join it. It was big. And the kids were excited about what was taking place. The Pathfinder Club had good leadership. And then it was that after the leader had been in his position for 7 years, it came to light that this leader, before he became a Seventh-day Adventist, about 15 years ago, was convicted of child molestation. And then, after getting out of prison 1 year, he came to an evangelism series, gave his heart to the Lord, joined the church, and became the Pathfinder leader. When this came to light, the information was passed around the church members. And there were church members who said, "This man, he needs to be fired. We cannot have him in the Pathfinder Club." There were other church members who said, wait a minute. He has been serving for 7 years and has had no problem. Now, in this case, the church board has many, many, many things to consider. It's not just a little narrow consideration. There are many things to consider. Now, there is a moral issue, values that we can talk about, but it comes down to a matter of what should that church board do ethically? What is the ethical thing to do? All right, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to discuss it, and we're going to be asking for a consensus, and I'm going to have the wise men and the counselor talk about it.
Yeah. It's hard for us to, we don't understand really. Yeah, difficult.
Yeah. No. The issue is, the issue is, before the man was converted, he did a crime. Yeah, child
Molestation.
molestation.
Yeah.
He was convicted, and he served in prison for 2 years. Right? Then he whatever. He get out, and then when he was out of prison, the Lord found him. And he became a member of the church. Now he wants to be used, so that we are now in the church board. And what would be this issue? There's no. He's living.
Yeah.
He's living. How should the third board decide?
Now, the question is, are we going to use that person
Yeah,
in a
that's
church?
right.
The question is, are you going to use him as the Pathfinder leader?
Yeah, Pathfinder.
I want to be clear here. We're discussing, are we going to use him as the Pathfinder leader? Okay?
There is a problem here. The problem is, what about the parents? You know, there is a tendency for this
That's right. The parents are now.
Are you going to put again the children into a danger position?
All right, we're going to take 30 more seconds, and then we're going to get some opinions. Yeah, he's been the Pathfinder leader already for 7 years. 7 years, no problem. Yeah. Okay, all right. Pass the microphone right here. And we're going to ask for a very quick opinion. What should be done to this man?
Well, after serving for 7 years without any question, and he had demonstrated a very exemplary life to these kids, as a member of the church board, so to speak, I would rather let him proceed and go on with his leadership.
Okay. Next, what should be done to this man?
I think I will apply the policy that was approved in the GC, that he should not be given that responsibility anymore and mingle with young people, wherein he will be given that chance again to do that evil thing. But on the other hand, I will have to reserve a time for him to demonstrate, enough time to demonstrate that indeed he has changed.
Okay. Next, what should we do with him?
Our position in the church is a redemptive position. But the thing is, are we going to put the children in danger? So for me, I will not put the children in danger for the sake of this guy. So I think there will be a time for him to be, let's say, he can realize that time will be used in this case, because if it will be in a hurry that this guy will be used again for the sake of the children, there will be a problem for the danger of the children.
Okay, next opinion.
My noble opinion is this: he is a new creature in Christ, and he has shown it in 7 years, and he had never reacted what he was accused of as a crime. And as a church, and as a chairman, maybe if I'm the chairman of the school board, I will stand in biblical term that this person has received Christ and he is already a new creature. Why would I condemn him of his past when he have not known Christ yet? Why will I be pressured with the insinuation or thinking of people when he had already shown by God's grace that he has been revived, he has been transformed, and let him go beyond?
Okay. All right, very good. Now, Elder Cooper, do you have any other comment before I tell you what they did?
Yeah, well, I think the case study illustrates a situation where multiple values are competing here, and you have to decide how to prioritize them, or if they can be prioritized. It's a very difficult situation because there's the need, the obligation, the responsibility of a church to protect young people. There is also our belief in the possibility of redemption, that people can change their lives. We don't continue to condemn someone for an event in the past. And so how do you work with competing values in a sense and find both a way to protect the individual and safeguard his life and reputation, at the same time be protective for the children? I think fortunately in an area like this the church has a lot of guidance, but we don't often practice that guidance in easy ways because it's difficult.
Okay. All right, now let me just tell you, well, let me get a vote here first. How many people here feel that this man should be disfellowshipped from the church? Raise your hand. Well, that's good. Very good. All right. How many feel that he should no longer be the Pathfinder leader? Raise your hand. Okay. I'm seeing that most people think he should be the Pathfinder leader. All right, let me tell you what happened. What happened, first of all, this story took place at the time when there was one Catholic priest after another that was being accused of child molestation. And it was on the front page of the newspapers. It was everywhere. And there were lawsuits that were coming to the Catholic Church, and they were having to pay thousands and thousands of dollars because it was proven that the priest did not listen. They knew that there was problem, but they did not remove them, the authorities, those that they worshiped to. And so the church board eventually decided that the overriding issue for the church was the reputation of that church. That there was no issue that was bigger than that. That was the main thing that they had to be concerned about, was the reputation and to protect the church. They did not want any bad name to come to the church. And so they also said that a very high value is that this man has done a very good job. He has been forgiven. He has demonstrated that his life had been reformed. But that value was not as high as the value of protecting the church. And I want you to think about this, because that is, as a pastor, one of your primary responsibilities. And so they said, what we will do is we will give this man another position in the church. As a matter of fact, he became the lay activities leader. And they said to him, by virtue of the fact that this has broken, you have openly said this to the church. Yes, it's true. You have not tried to say, no, I wasn't guilty. You have been forthright with us. Take this other job. And you know what the man said? He said, I think you're right. In the interest of protecting this church, because you know, sometimes a Pathfinder leader can be accused when it is not true. Have you ever thought of that? There could be just one child that would say, this man did something. If he said that, considering his background and his history, do you think that the people would believe it? I think they would. And so this man said, I think it's wise. I think it's best. He said, if I take this other position, I still know everybody. They're still my friends. You have taken me into your fellowship. And so he took the job of being the lay activities director, and he no longer was the Pathfinder leader. Now that's a decision that they made. Your church might make a different decision. But I know that it's an illustration of competing values. Let's take a look at the 9 reasons people give for not doing the right thing. This is what we most commonly hear. All right? Number 1, if it's necessary, it's ethical. Yeah. If it's necessary, it's ethical. Number 2, if it's legal and permissible, it's proper. Number 3, I was just doing it for you. Often used for white lies or withholding important information in personal and professional relationships. I was just doing it for you. Number 4, I'm just fighting fire with fire. They did this to us, and if they did it to us, I'm going to do it to them back again. Number 5, it doesn't hurt anyone. It's okay to violate principles as long as there's not a clear and immediate harm to other people. Number 6, it can't be wrong. Everyone else is doing it. That's a false safety in numbers. Number 7, it's okay if I don't gain personally. It's okay. Number 8, I've got it coming. And these are persons who feel they are overworked or they're underpaid, and they often rationalize the minor perks. You know, that little bit on the expense report or on this or that, or the acceptance of favors. It's a fair compensation. Number 9, I can still be objective. Does the person providing you with the benefit believe it will not affect your judgment in any way? Would the benefit be offered if you were in no position to help the provider? Would that be offered? Conclusion: none of us is quite as good as we think we are. Remember that. None of us is nearly as good as we could be. The real test of ethics is whether we are willing to do the right thing when it is not in our self-interest to do so. That's the test of ethics, pastors. Now, we have had a few little examples here, and there will be many things that will come to your ministry. But I hope that you can keep these tests in mind. The little things that you can ask yourself. The little alarm that can go off. And it can serve your ministry. I want to thank the panel for coming. Thank you. I realize there's many things that could be said. Give them a good hand. And thank you very much.